Hello there, Bravehearts and CoachMaddHatter's, and welcome to the CoachMaddHatter's ComfySofa Conversation Situations Series 1 Epilogue. This is the epilogue. This is where we get ready to talk about all the good things that sponsored the Comfy series itself, the ComfySofa series itself. I have my notes, and we're going to go. This is strictly going to be bibliography and citations and references, so that you'll have a clear understanding by which I pull information that I talk about. First and foremost, the three core stories that were in reference during this series was The Wiz, Alice in Wonderland, and The Never Ending Story. And so now we will discuss the periphery. But before I do that, I just want to give a little bit of insight into my pro-personal manifesto, being the Golden Wildling, as well as a Coach Mad Hatter, especially the founder of the CoachMaddHatter's. Oh, and also before I get started, just to let you know that those that get in contact with us to pre-order the Dynamo Edifice, we will be including the entire Sankofa. I'm thinking Sankofa right now. I've been having Sankofa on my mind for a couple of days now. Stemming from a conversation with my nephew Jojo. Hey Jojo, I love you, baby. Okay, so and we were talking, and how old is he? He's the same age as my oldest son, 27. I think Jojo 26, 27. And both of them, we have very solid conversations when we talk. Shout out to my oldest son. I like to call him Maverick, Kurt Bone. It's my baby. One day we will catch up soon so we can, continue our dialogue, how we do what we do. But we were speaking about Sankofa, and which stemmed from a quote that he recited me and wanted to get my opinion on it. And so that spilled into understanding the true meaning of Sankofa. Speaking of which, I got my mama with me today. She decided to show up again to the spot. Just so that we can be open to allowing the ancestors to come in and do what they do. Because even though, in my belief, that they reside in the heart chakra, I also believe that us giving them the invitation, us extending the invitation for them to come out and speak on our behalf, or intervene on our behalf, or research and develop on our behalf. I was speaking to him and letting him know that usually when we engage our intuition and we give it a directive, when we put it out there into the ether, when we put it out there, in my belief, it's usually our ancestors that's going out into the invisible to connect the dots, bring it back to us, and then plop it into our brain space for us to say, okay, I get it. So, with that being said, I'm going to give you two snippets into my full manifesto, which I am hoping will publish sometime soon, just as a pro-personal an infusion to my overall greater narrative. Since we are talking about the engagement and the courage to step into the art of telling one's own story, yes? So, the introduction into my pro-personal manifesto says, it's all about being streetwise and inner healing spiritual, being the student and the teacher. And it's also about the wisdom and the intuitive details that ride alongside the fool and the shero's journey, plus the courtship with self, as well as invisible connectivities with our others. Because any being outside of yourself, your intragalactical space, your inner verse, is considered other. Yes. And so part B to the introduction just gives a little insight into my mission, into why it is that I feel compelled to do and research and develop the way that I do. And so it's to provide hood interpretations, yes, because I am forever hood. To provide hood interpretations based upon the enlisting details arranged in the 5D before arriving in the flesh into the 3D. Raising the awakenings to truity, which is the endorsement of one's true self, plus the hot pursuits of unconditional love, cosmic, complementary with an E, and treasured transparency. It's not easy being me. And I come with a lot of mistakes and a lot of shortcomings and a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I'm not even getting ready to claim that whole I'm human shit. I believe that, especially after investigating my birth chart, that there were some things that I was supposed to go through. Now we have to remember Bastion being connected to Atreyu. The childlike empress allowed herself to get sick because that was the only way that Bastion was going to become emotionally invested. That was the only way that Atreyu was going to have the opportunity to save himself, ultimately, aka Bastion, which also flow right on into both of them were images of the childlike empress. And I was just about to say something and it escaped my mind, but it was good. Hopefully it'll come back to me. Like, bring it in. But those moments of treasure, transparency, it's not easy being me. I think that as we begin to get in tune with identifying those star players, because I don't believe it's just one star player with that. I believe that with each phase, with each season, there's a newness that ensues and ultimately brings in a new you, a different version. Past self, present self, future self, and all that, all of the in between, all that varies. You're not the same person that you was just yesterday. And so if folks claim they know you, if they do not be with you and speak with you on a 24-hour basis, they may miss the ahas and the connections of the dots. And if you have not given them an update, a full, thorough update, they could be missing some things. Yes, they could be missing some things. But only you are with you all the time, every second of every day, moment to moment, understanding the unfolding of this thing called life. And the more and more I investigate, I am standing in agreement with the enlisting details, like the parents that I chose, the children that chose me, good, bad, or indifferent. Let's be real. Let's not be funny with this shit. The circumstances that I chose. If I am to step into that truth, it's even down to the divine arrangement of who I would marry, and how all of that would unfold. I often say in conversation, especially with those that I really truly love, we do not have origination dates or expiration dates on nothing. We may know from a celestial standpoint when we're going to enlist to come into flesh and deal with our 3D experiences, but beyond that, even if you dibble and dabble into divination, aka fortune telling, or being able to tell the future and things like that, we still do not know how it's actually going to unfold in that very moment. And yes, it makes us feel secure to make plans and not only feel secure, because I have to say, yes, the conductor needs notes. So I do believe in sheet music. I do. But I also believe in those moments of impromptu. I also believe in those moments where you could just go with the flow and allow the music to take you. I do. I believe in those Miles Davis type of moments. I really do. I believe in those Dave Chappelle type of moments. I honestly do. And even though I said during the series we wasn't going to get into the celebrityism of things, we're in the epilogue now. And so I have to pay homage to those that have infused my awareness on some things. Treasured transparency. I am going forever, be forever, always forever, as long as I'm in this flesh, saying, I apologize. I didn't mean to say it the way you received it. No, that is not what I meant when I said that. Let's talk some more about this. What do you mean when you say that? How you feeling today, tomorrow, yesterday? What's good with you? It's okay. Maybe next time. My bad. I did not mean to hurt your feelings. Yeah, I meant to say that. No, but I didn't. That's not what I said. That is not what I said. Yes, I love you. No, I don't give a fuck about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is not to one person, or it could be. It all depends on the cycles and the seasons by which you're going through, I'm going through, we're going through. Because there will be seasons of ebb and flow. There'll be seasons and times and cycles when it's really good that you don't hear from me. It's really good. It's to your benefit, more than likely. It's good that I don't hear from you. It's to my benefit, more than likely. So, to have relationship with self, that's the one being that you cannot get away from no matter what you do, unless you gonna exit up out of here. Your intuition, your imagination, your conversations with self, that truly is your great commission. It's my great commission to have courtship with myself and my invisible muses. As each individual stay in alignment with their assignment, as Lulu I Love says at the House of Oshun. Yes, As we do that each and every day, we will quilt together this thing called purpose. We will carve out this thing called our own unique lane. We will align with this thing called Bastian, the childlike empress, and Atreyu. Yeah, it's all going to. I am delighted that I chose to come here, and now I am now delighted now that I have a better understanding of certain things, that I chose to come here and experience all the heartache, to sign up for all the sacrifices, to say yes to some things, but no to even more things. Let me show you this. Let me just be one to peek to make sure that you can see it. Yeah, Gil Scott Heron. As the revolution will not be televised. And it really, I'm going to tell you, this is for y'all youngins, those that love all that cloud nonsense. You want to be engaged in the shit you can't feel. And I know when I talk about the intuition and the imagination, this is like, Coach, that's the shit you can't feel. But you can feel that. You can feel that. Okay? So now I'm talking about on the physical, on the mundane, in the mundane. Like, this is the way the music used to show up. Yeah, this is how music is delivered, by golly wow. Yes, indeedy, Uncle P. This is how they used to do things around these pots. So we stepping into show and tell before we really get into the get down. Here's another one. Yeah, holler if you hear me. And another one of my very favorites. Let me see if you can see it. You see this? Do you see this here? Do you see this here? Like, this is, and do you see this is truly like the concrete of the man that looks like me? You know, like all of it. And somewhere in there, people, my people, somewhere in there, fertilization and growth takes place. And it has all to do with the relationship with self, yes? Wake up, everybody. So that's my contribution for Songversations. Shout out to my love, India Irie, for bringing forth the idea of songversation, how it is that there are so many conversations inside of song. And I'm now getting into the people who exercise their right to speak through song. Yes, I am. And there are a lot of folks out there that will, either they will, you know, to prove their point, they will recite lyric. They will dive into poetry. Like at the drop of a hat, they will get real rhythmic with it. They will send inside of a love letter just the title of a song, and the receiver will know, go check the song out because I have something to tell you. And this is with entire playlists. Come on. That's been a romantic gesture for like decades now. Like, yeah. Mixtapes? Yeah, I did not bring her no flowers. I put together a mixtape for her so that she knew that when she played it, it was all about her and me and her, we. Y'all ain't ready. So, the theme for the epilogue, as well as the service, the honorarium to the series, is what needs to be included in the conversation. comfy conversations are not a cute catchphrase. There truly are some things that we ought to become comfortable with sitting on the sofa and talking about. And this is to throw no shade to the therapist. It's not, because they work hard and they master their intelligence so that they may assist and support us. But truth and honesty, in truth and honesty, in treasured transparency, there's so many sofas in our homes that go unused. Mine included. Let's not be funny with this shit. Like, there have been plenty of opportunities where me and my godlings, my 3 godlings, should have been sitting on the sofa talking about some things. And that's one thing that I love about my children's dad and his family. Yeah, they hit the sofa. They will hit the sofa and they will talk about that shit. So, I just say that in likeness that my total reason for hosting any ComfySofa conversation series is so that I may offer up subjects that can be further explored. And I think I've mentioned that before, but I'm mentioning it again. Mainly because I would like to use these recordings as my guidepost to when I do begin to host sofa activities, conversation activities, conversation engagement in person, exclusively for me. So, what is being intrinsically called to talk about? And I said that I was going to go according to my notes, and I will. So I just wanna, I will start in order of the notes right after I read. And look, so you can see how I do, right? This one right here, even though I have to say honestly, I'm intimidated by this book. I am intimidated and I take it slow. And what I do is that I go in and I do my best to highlight what I do understand and put my little notes and stuff like that down in there. So, and this is one of the things that I follow as a golden key, because to me it's the 4-pointer to how we are structured as far as when we are talking about self. And so there are sensations, and it goes in, is that counterclockwise? So it goes in the area, the way that things are now. If we were to deal with the way that our social strata is set up now, it leans towards logic. It leans towards left brain activity most often. And so then it's usually sensation, thought. Then that taps into the intuition, and feeling always come in last. We are such an anti-emotional culture. And I've spoke about it before, and you can't truly have like a sincere relationship with self if you dismiss how you feel about things. So with the ushering in of the sacred energy called divine feminine, and we're not talking about female per se, we are talking about the intuition and feelings. We're talking about the more introverted sides of life. that we bring this back up in balance with this, because right now it's lopsided. Well, yeah, it's lopsided. Well, no, it's lopsided, yeah, because this is on top, so it's lopsided. And so what we're doing is that we're focusing on the intra part of life, the relationship with self and intuition and how I'm feeling, so we can bring it back in balance, bring it back in alignment, so that both can be tapped in. Yes? And so this is one of the diagrams that I lead by myself, as well as my studies and how I interpret things. And so I'm just going to read this small passage here. And it's in the editor's introduction, which means this is speaking in Joseph Campbell's voice, which is the creator of our blueprint to the Shiro's journey, as he originates the hero's journey. And we're talking about Carl Gustav Jung, which is the Swiss psychotherapist. He was way more than that, but just to keep it simplified, he is the one that really encouraged us to tap into our imagination, to align with our invisible selves, and bring forth that trueness of self. So it says, Jung's concept is that the aim of one's life, psychologically speaking, should not be suppressed or repressed, but to come to know one's other side, and so both to enjoy and to control the whole range of one's capacities, i.e., in full sense, to know oneself. So that means you have to take your good, your bad, and your urban ugly, and learn how to love on all of that, consciously and subconsciously. I heard, I want to say like in the last day or two, I was listening to a podcast. Shout out to Sabrina Monarch, the Magic of the Spheres podcast. If you are into astrology, that is one podcast that you need to be tapping into. monarchastrology.com. Go check it out. And her guest right now, the name of the guest escapes me, but it's like the last, I want to say, it's a two-parter, and she just put out the latest one, so it's the one before that. It's the segment before that. Oh my goodness! And I always do this, don't I? I want to give you the name of the guest, but I can't remember what her name is. But it's within the newest 3 segments, so you'll and it's a two-parter, so you with those clues you should be able to find it if you're truly interested in listening to it. But she speaks about Jung, and she talks about how us Jungians, those who want to claim that they follow Carl Jung's self-actualizing archetype, those that truly have been drugged through the gutter. That's not what she said, though. She said drugged through the ocean, scraped on the bottom of the ocean's floor, and was able to use their own inner resources to pull themselves out, damn near drowning. But before they die, they still bumped and bruised and battered and lungs full of whatever. The inner resources of oneself gets them up out of that very compromising situation. Anyone who knows me personally know I am probably the poster child, if not runner-up. But instead of having, and I still feel, I was about to say, instead of having the ocean floor, it truly has been, the streets of. But I had to think. We're talking psychologically speaking, So at some point, we're talking about my invisible self and my ability to contour from the ashes. And if I am to throw in my Capricornness, as I always do, I am a sea goat. So yes, to the depths, along the rocky ocean bed, I have been drugged. But reconciling that inside the knowledge that I signed up for this. I chose my parents. I chose the situations that I would be put up under while here. I didn't choose all of my experiences, but the key pillars, the time and space that I would be subjected to. And I know that's not for everyone's liking. And I don't record this to convince you of anything. I share my love, and if it resonates, like Ramblin' Mike say, if it resonates, have fun with it. And if it doesn't, have fun throwing it out the door. I'm not here to convince you. But if you feel the way I do, yes. So, as we opened up the session with, because I do believe in cosmic compatibility. I do believe in cosmic complementary with an E. I do believe in the astro alchemy that can take place when we begin to affiliate and associate our acquaintances along the lines of that which is complementary and complementary cosmically. Yes? And of course, we will definitely bring back the Daring Greatly by Dr. Brené Brown, because we are in the arena. Each and every day we get up, especially if within our innermost caves we are striving to journey this thing called a Shiro's trail, a fool's trail. We are on a journey to tap into our greater selves, aka we are in the arena. We are daring greatly to reconcile some things. And I don't mean daring greatly hustling to accumulate man-made currency. And don't get me wrong, that is also important. But to not invest in the courtship of oneself, that's not daring greatly to me. So just so that we can qualify what it is that's being spoke of when we dealing with courtship with self and having these comfy sofa conversations. And the poem that I read, I believe it was in part 4. Yes, I believe it was in part 4. It's on page 1. The Man in the Arena. And here is the next best. So on page 60. So the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. On page 60 is what, especially if you already have the book, it begins with the overview of the 7 habits. And I love that it's encased in the circular view, and all of the habits listed. So habit number 1 is be proactive. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Number 3, put first things first. Number 4, think win-win. Number 5, seek first to understand, then be understood. Number 6, synergize. Number 7, sharpen the saw. And sharpen the saw means to educate oneself. Not to hold the teacher responsible, but to say to yourself, we're going to learn this. We're going to investigate this. We're going to research this. We're going to take our time and develop this. We're going to master this. We are not going to put a timer on it. We're just going to go with the flow. It's going to ebb and it's going to flow. But as long as we don't change our mind to stop it, divine intuition will attract to us that which we want to learn and find out more about. Yes. Yes. 25th edition. 25th anniversary edition. Let me say that. Okay, so one of my favorites, so book number 4, we'll take it back to the red tent, by Anita Diamant. And this truly is me paying homage to the divine feminine and how the conversation, especially the the comfy sofa conversations of women. And one day I do hope that we will dispel, like totally dismantle and dispel this thing called girl versus guy. Seriously. I am hoping that the I always want to say Sankofa. I'll probably end up changing this title because Sankofa just want to continue to come out. Maybe because it's saying, yeah, Sankofa needs to be part of all of it. The comfy sofa conversations ought to be not just amongst the women. Men need to hop on the sofa too. And there need to be co-education between both. And time taken to better understand. Don't come to the sofa thinking you have all the answers. Like literally show up to the sofa as the student, as the observer. You are coming to collect data or share at best. But you are not coming to critique, judge, or referee. Next up, amongst my most powerful, and look how usually when it's small, yeah, amongst the most powerful reads, and it continues to be a powerful read, published in 1903, and it continues to be a very, very powerful read. So, on page 17, which is, and this almost escaped my mind. Page 17 is the provocateur of the love letter series that I will be launching after we put some tweaks to it. But yes, a man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intellectually cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless seeds will fall therein, and will continue to produce their kind. And that's my answer to those that I run across that seem to be so amazed that I am such the book reader. I think that, and it's not just books. Remember, my life path number is number 7. I am the seeker. Like, that's me naturally. And seekers come in all different shapes, size, forms, and fashions. I just happen to be the hood type. And I know sometimes that can be an oxymoron, because usually in the most traditional, more conventional sense of things, hood folk, though, you know, they usually not like Dora the Explorer. Pun intended, yes, absolutely. Um, just as a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing the flowers and fruits which he requires, so may the man tend the garden of his mind, weeding out all the wrong, weeding out all the wrong, useless and impure thoughts, and cultivating toward perfection the flowers and fruits of right, useful, and pure thoughts. By pursuing this process, the man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals within himself the laws of thought and understands that ever increasing accuracy. How the thought forces, how the thought forces, it sounded weird for a minute. How the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of his character, circumstances, and destiny. Back to my favorite, living a charmed life. Trying to get to Living a Charmed Life by Victoria Moran. Page 5. And I'm not going to read all of this, but it's the second essay, starting a serendipity log. Taking account of one's serendipity, putting it in a journal, is almost as important as you keeping eye on your bank account, or the artist with its portfolio, or the music conductor with its sheet music, the potter with its crafts. Those that are walking the trails of the fool's journey, or the shero's journey, taking an account of your serendipitous moments, especially if you are looking forward to returning with life's elixir, so that then you may share your experiences to either help or provoke, assist, aid, heal those that you come across that are on theirs. Preventative medicine for charmed life blackouts is to keep a serendipity log, an ongoing list of wonders, delights, and positive coincidences. And I also added, as you will see in here, components, complements, concessions, conceptions, comprehension, conclusions, and intellectual concoctions. I think I might read just a little bit. It's a pity when someone is living a charmed life but doesn't know it. This can happen when ambition gets out of whack. I'm only in a TV series when I ought to be in featured films. I do that sometimes. I downplay what's really truly going on with me. And that I will opt out for the TV series when I really should be in feature films. Yeah. A little bit of treasured transparency, a little tenderness there. I don't know how to okay, so I'm gonna leave it there without reading this entire thing, even though they're kind of short. Since I'm gonna go ahead on and read that part. I don't pretend to know how it all works, but in my imagination, I think of heavy. I'm sorry, but in my imagination, I think of heavenly beings assigned to the serendipity department. It's a massive job because every serendipitous event requires separate. Yeah, every serendipitous event requires separate lives and seemingly unrelated events to intersect for the benefit of all concerned. Chaos therapists Chaos therapists must detest serendipity. In any case, when I am aware of the exquisite orchestration and grateful for it, it's as if those angelic forces get wind of the fact and figure out how to send more goodness my way. Yeah, baby. Okay, so book number 7, which we featured as well. So on page 21, just really quickly, we are going to tap into when you think a thought, you feel a feeling. When you feel a feeling, you take action or not because of how you feel. Your actions, in parentheses, behaviors, create your experience in the world and ultimately what your life looks like, your results. If your thoughts suck, your life is going to suck. If you aren't conscious of your negative thoughts, you are enslaved by them. I call this the spin cycle, as depicted in the diagram on the next page. And I have to say, let me just show you this real quick. If you can see it. Let me see if it will it go into, yeah. I am living truth to that. Am I completely in control of my thoughts? No. Am I automatically aware or conscious of them when they step in? No. They probably could tussle with me for a good while before I realized that I really could scoot their asses up out of my brain space. Because I am such the thinker, even my bodily functions are still twined up in the recklessness of how my trains of thought will become combustive or just jam everything all up. Which is one of the reasons why I decided to start studying psychology and human behavior and understanding certain coaching tools and techniques and just getting into the language of self-healing, inner healing as an art. which is how I started to become attracted to such things as music and poetry, because those are the things, and pottery, and yeah, especially like our live performance. Um, those are the things that will soothe the heart on contact. Like the moment the heart comes in contact with it, healing begins. And I said all of that because we're talking about self-coaching. Yes. Storytelling is that's right. That's how I'm wrapping that in, connecting that into. So storytelling, especially when we are engaged with reconciling our own, and like I've said throughout this entire series, whether we're going to say it, whether we're going to tell our story um, to others, or just reconciling it with ourselves, the art of crafting it as viable story is a form of self-healing, as well as journaling, because I was just about to say it's not the same, but both of them are both heavy hitters in the realms of inner healing as an art. So that segues perfectly into, which is by Dr. Ryan G. Van Cleve. Can you see that? And so on a page, right on page 1. Yes, because we're doing the introductory, right on page 1. I think I'm going to go ahead and read yeah. A few years back, I worked with a 20-something elementary school teacher who wanted to work on a memoir. We chatted a bit about the different themes in her life she was interested in exploring through writing. A coworker walked past and must have overheard us because he asked one of the big questions about memoir. Why on earth would you want to write a memoir? You're so young. Her answer? Last year at my grandmother's funeral, I heard so many stories from my aunts and uncles that I realized I didn't know my grandmother at all. Each of us had a story or two about her, but it was always a different story. Together, we had more than a few tales about her childhood in Romania, her job waitressing on cruise ships, her violent marriage, and her life as a nanny for a count's daughter. But we all realized that there were pieces of her life missing, huge pieces. I can't stand the idea that my family and my future kids might not know me either. Yeah. And I have to say, it brings me back to my Uncle Gil's memories. So much so that many times I wish every single elder in my family that didn't have to do nothing fancy and elaborate, that they just like put one of these together that would become a permanent fixture in the living room on the bookshelf. Yes, that would be such an incredible reference during ComfySofa conversation moments. He outlined all of the family members that he was able to, that allowed me to essentially connect dots that I wouldn't have had otherwise, mainly because my mom was not really in tune with her family, so she didn't talk much about them. So like I said, receiving this it was a game changer for me. It was a game changer. So It's another one of the reasons why I have stepped in this gap to urge, just on a personal level, that we begin to journal and write down some the occurrences and sharpening our pen and vocabulary to get out of this fear of reading books but not writing them. And this essentially is a book. Let's not get it twisted. It does not have to be a novel. You can take document of the reason what you came here for. You can take an account, a running ledger of the things that you have gone through and how you felt about them. So the next book is one of my absolute favorites. Um, and let me just segue, just sidebar real quick. So in my conversation with JoJo a couple of days ago, he pulls out his phone. You know, the next generational leaders, they pull out gadgets. They don't pull out. So he pulls out his gadget and he's scrolling through it. And so he's like, okay, so auntie, do you know about this person and that person, this person? And, some of them I'm like, yeah, I know. And some of them are like, nah. So, I'm taking mental notes and, you know, thinking about, okay, I need to, write some of this down because I want to tap into, those that he shared with me. Baby, let me tell you something. When he asked me about this author here, I hollered. And what makes it so interesting is that he did too when he found out I was so excited about her. Yes, honey. Dr. Joy DeGruy. Yes, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Everybody need this on their bookshelf. All right? It has a workbook. It has a study guide. She truly is a leader after my own heart. Let me say a doctor professor after my own heart. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. So, on that page, okay, so let me get it straight so that I can make sure I understand what we're doing. So on page 184, on page 184, we're talking about taking control of our inner world. And even though I'm not going to read telling the truth about the world. And even on page 187, in the absence of voiced recognition and praise from their elders, children often feel like their parents are not proud of them and carry a lifetime of self-doubt and worth. Dr. Joy DeGruy talks adamantly about vacant esteem, which is, vacant esteem, which is not the same thing as low esteem. Healthy esteem comes from healthy and positive exchanges with the people in our lives on whom we depend on for support and guidance, aka ComfySofa conversations. Some families take time to consider all that went down. Some families take time to consider all that went well for them the previous day, explore ways of making things even better, and plan what will go on the next day. Imagine every black family doing this every day. It wouldn't take long for you and your children to get in the habit of paying attention to the impact all of us have on others and refining the impacts of our contributions. Every day, we would have evidence of the good that we do, and hence evidence of our value. There it is right there. There it is right there. There it is right there. And so on page 56 and 57 of the study guide, is, and I think I might have shown this on inside one of the parts of the segment, but it has us get ready to chart out our village, and that includes mentors, family, friends alike. And so real quick, so parent, mentor, counselor, career coach, spiritual advisor, health advisor, confidant, motivator, defender, and advocate. We are to list the names. We are to list the names of these heroes in our lives so that we can have readily available this insight. Yes? Next on the list. Which is by Ace McLeod. And so we are going to focus on pages 10 and 11. Laughter, the alternative way. And I really would like for the focus to be on page 10 because it deals with chakra healing and how laughter is very impactful when we are intentional about clearing out our blocked chakra, which is the center, center, blah, blah, blah. The energy centers by which we bring in, absorb, and process energy, light, vibes. Yes, and it goes into all the chakras. I'm not going to read, but you can see it's quite a bit going on. And so it's detailed in how you will be able to focus on those centers in your mind. So you will have to close your eyes and you will focus on, let's just say, within the crown chakra area, right? And so what I usually do, just for my own self, because I have a thing with the amethyst stone and it's purple, so it coincides with the enrichment of the chakra station. And so I imagine the stone is put here, definitely for the likes of wanting to heal this area from the head-on collision that I spoke of earlier. So me imagining the vibe and the energy and the hues of the stone going inward into my my crown chakra, and I envision the web off of the picture from where I impacted as if the indention is there, or was there. And so I take the purple energies and I have it run all through the webbed crack where it could have left an invisible indention in my crown chakra. And then I bring it in and up. I bring it in and up. And so while I'm doing that, I also concentrate, and I leave that image in the back of my mind so that it will continue to pull in energy in this direction. And then I think of loving things. I really think of like my children when the moments are like hilarious, as well as like conversations with my best friend, since we giggle as much as we do, and my dad and my stepmom and my siblings. And so all conversations that I can muster up that will give me inner laughter, I use also that energy to reinforce and enact the healing energies of what could still be left, open fragments of what's going on inside of my crown chakra, so that my concentration can begin to solidify and gain more solidarity and that kind of thing. Okay, so kind of like totally went out. I kind of forgot that I was recording. Okay, I'll bring it in. So it does well. It also has like chapter 5 is mental strategies for overcoming bad memories, as well as chapter 6 is encourage laughter with nutrition. It even has a few recipes for smoothies. It talks about dealing with St. John's wort, and as well as food that will boost your moods. So you are having, and I always say, good food, good conversation with laughter and music. You got yourself a true natural healing moment. So yes, it goes into giving quite, and like it's a little teeny book, very easy read. Have all kinds of good stuff going on in here with it. Very lighthearted. Very, very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. Okay, another one of my favorites. Now, let me tell you something. You want to, if you want to exercise, why can't I get that word out? Exercise your right to laugh, baby. But I am going to, what page is we talking about? We're on page 20, 21. I am going to talk about one of the more heavier situations here. Page 20, 21. All this is to say that it's not your fault that you're fucked up. It's your fault if you stay fucked up. But the foundations of your fucked upness is something that's been passed down through generations of your family. Like the coat of arms or a killer cornbread recipe. Or in my case, equating confrontation with heart failure. And of course, I'm not reading the entire page. That's the nugget from off of page 20. And so we're going to hop to 21. The main source of information was, of course, your parents, assisted by society at large. When they were raising you, your parents, in a genuine effort to protect you and educate you and love you with all their hearts, hopefully. passed on the beliefs they learned from their parents, who learned from their parents, who learned from their parents. The trouble is, many of these beliefs have nothing to do with who they actually are or were or what is actually true. I realize I'm making it sound like we're all crazy, but that's because we kind of are. Most people are living in an illusion based on someone else's beliefs. We as humans have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Most of us are only aware of our conscious mind. However, because that's where we process all of our information, it's where we figure things out, judge, obsess, analyze, criticize, worry that our ears are too big, decide once and for all to stop eating fried food, grasp at 2 plus 2 equal 4, try to remember where the hell we left the car keys, etc., etc. Our conscious mind, otherwise known as our frontal lobe, doesn't fully develop until sometime around puberty. Our subconscious mind, on the other hand, is the non-analytical part of our brain that fully develops at the moment we arrive here on Earth. It's all about feelings and instincts and erupting into ear-piercing temper tantrums in the middle of the supermarkets. It's also where we store all the early outside information we get. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm almost tempted to just do an entire reading, like transpose this into, even though I have to say, and I may be pronouncing the author's name incorrectly, but Jen Sincero, she, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in her own voice, has the audio version of this book, and it's on YouTube right now. So go check it out. And it is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But because I'm such a book reader, I like to read it out on my own. So this here, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. It is not to be played with. Understand me when I tell you that we can no longer ignore. And like I was telling JoJo, there is something called willful ignorance. And even for me to sit here and say this right now, please don't get the impression that I am always front line and center for all the tough talks, because I'm not. Recording this series is one of my efforts to gain the courage to be able to engage in some of the things that are so weighty, but still needs attention nonetheless. And so on page 140, this chapter opens up with a small introduction of Frederick Douglass's statement on behalf of the delegates to the National Colored Convention held in Rochester, New York in July 1853. called A Cruel Hand. Just so you can... A heavy and cruel hand has been laid upon us. As a people, we feel ourselves to be not only deeply injured, but grossly misunderstood. Our white countrymen do not know us. They are strangers to our character, ignorant to our capacity, oblivious to our history and progress, and are misinformed as to the principles and ideas that control and guide us as a people. The great mass of American citizens estimate us as being a characterless and purposeless people, and hence we hold up our heads, if at all, against the withering influence of a nation's scorn and contempt. I'm looking at the time too. I'm wondering if I should... Well, I only have a few more books to go, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I know that there are certain subjects and topics that will need to be engaged while on the comfy sofa. It's one of the reasons why the sofa needs to be comfy. I don't particularly think the round table is the right place for certain topics, because I'm going to tell you something about my dad. And I am also going to just segue just for a moment to say that me not growing up with my dad, being around him every day, and I think I've said this, if I haven't said it in this series, I've said it in another recording, is the solve to my aching emotionality. It's like it is the reinforcement of a nature gone bad. Like he truly, and it's not anything that he is doing, with any great intention. Just being in his presence, in his vibe, in his space is like the glue to my broken heart. So if you figure like it's too late for you to become enmeshed, but see, then we would have to get out of the mindset of this whole ultra independent shit. Like, as I've spoken before, I am one that believe in multi-generational living. Like, I believe homesteads should be like, if you live in a 5-bedroom house and it's just you, to each his own. I just don't have no understanding to that. I really don't. And it's not to say that everybody is going to get along all the time, but sometimes the availability of the comfy coach conversation is because at some point we all will be coming through the living room, coming through the basement, coming through the family room, coming through the kitchen. And so the comfy sofa phenomenon came through me because my dad is the type that, especially if it's one of those types of hard conversations, he wants to hold your hand while we talk. Yes. Especially if you already got wind that it's about to be, like a heavy conversation. Immediately when you come into his presence, he will reach out for you to grab his hand and you can sit down and you can talk to him. That happens better, in my opinion, on a comfy sofa versus it being around a round table. So that's just my take. Which leads me into, I love this book. And to tell you the truth, this is not the only book that Paulo Coelho has written that has made me just fall in love with that man. I really love the way he writes and tells stories and have the just the genius. Like, I know he lives in deep conversation with his muses, just how the story will unfold in your mind. And I've read the book, and I've listened to the audiobook. Some good stuff. And so I do not have I don't have this one on the list, but I do want to point out that inside the introduction, nope, I'm sorry, not even inside the introduction. Inside the prologue. Inside the prologue, when the alchemist talks about the legend of the narcissist. If you have the book on hand, I want you to take a look and spend some time with the prologue. I'm not going to read it because we are trapping with time now, but that's just one of the bonus readings that I just want to throw in there real quick, just because it's so near and dear to my heart. So let's see who's our next up. Oh, okay. So this book also is not on the list, but it is definitely one of my favorites. As well as one of the authors is the executive director of Truth, which is located here in Washington, D.C. And so I just wanted to give them a quick shout out, because they have a part in the book, chapter 6, that's called Bend Like Bamboo. And it really does talk about, or it gives homage to us being flexible through the ebbs and flows of life. And it just gives good insight to one that is truly considering or is knee-deep engaged in their courtship with self. We will, on so many occasions, have to bend like bamboo. And surviving by improvising. And there's another one here that the encore effect. But that's not in Bending Like Bamboo. That's just one that I just saw that I also like. Failing forward. Indeed, failure today is often not. Indeed, failure today is often seen as something to be embarrassed about, but as one of the keys to learning faster, being more creative, getting better, and ultimately finding a way to win and succeed. Failing forward. I'm almost pulled to want to read more. I'm going to leave it there. But, yes, Grit to Great. Grit to Great by Linda Kaplan Thyler and Robin Koval. Last but not least, one of my very favorites. Sark does a wonderful job with this book. So, The Succulent Wild Woman. And when I say the entire book looks like this cover, I kid you not. The entire book is in this handwritten, like, sensational, like, incredible. It really is. It is. At first I wondered, I was like, did she actually, like, is this like her handwriting? Like, is this the way? Oh yeah, my book is a little fragile, but you know, it's like, is this how she do what she do? Like, really? So on page, I have a little bit on page 33 that I would like to share before. No, is it on 33? Working with the hard parts. I am often running from pain. When I feel helpless or out of control, I want to close up, wall off, medicate. The ego manically says no to everything. I listen to it and isolate and try to avoid the pain. I don't want to get all crazy with it. Live in the process. Page 96. See, this book is just so alluring. It always pulls me in. Like, I just, like, love flipping through it and, like, trying to, the language of cake. Don't we deserve to eat? Okay, I'm going to get back to it and then I'm going to close out. Because I know that there was a piece in here that I just want to show you this real quick. Keep on the peek. Yeah, I'm going to peek around. Just so beautiful. Okay, so then I'm seeing that on my notes does not have the correct pages. I'm trying to figure out how did I do that. Being self-entertaining. But that's not the one. Ah, and I don't want to take up any more time flipping through. But here we go. It was okay. So adventures close to home. So if you don't know by now, I am a self-appointed ambassador for the homesteader, for the work from the worker from home, the from home worker, the freelancer that works from home, the home-based business. I have been for a very, very long time. When I first started out, when my 27-year-old was about 2, I set up salon in the basement, and it allowed me to not have to be not only worried about daycare, but taking my children, especially if the babysitter could not come to the house, go dropping them off and then go to work and then gotta go pick them up, get home, rush to do this, then a third. And so when they were little, it just wasn't practical. There's that Capricorn thing. It just was not practical for me to try to do all of that. Plus I just like naturally solely wasn't interested in that. So building a salon in the house where not only was I able to keep a certain flow of my day and my work as well as my family, but it also gave my clients the green light to bring their babies. And if, everybody sit down and eat. So by the time, and it was interesting because my clients that came on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, By the time they left, kids was fed, homework was done because they was in rhythm with mine. And so that made life just a little bit more better for my clients as well, which allowed us to bond on a greater level with a lot more substance. Well, now that I am into the Coach Mad Hattery realm, Sark talks about hosting tea parties. And she has then we're invited to a tea party and feel a fizz of excitement. Come to a tea party with remarkable women and wear a hat. I thought was an incredible idea. In addition to not so long ago talking to my cousin about hosting supper parties. And so now the Coach Mad Hatters, we are going to exercise our right to meet up within the space of tea parties and supper parties, but there and lunch and learns, where we will gather to have that combination of good food, good conversation, aka learning life, with laughter and maybe music. And we're going to tap into that magical space of food and conversation. There is truly an adventure there. And I know we have gotten out of the magic of house parties, but I was also telling my sister not too long ago that it feels like the energy that used to carry the home along is now in scarcity because our folks don't host like our elders used to. Houses are now more elaborate. They now like elaborate museums than they are, homes that will invite in the human energy that could, if channeled correctly, be used as a healing source, especially when it's of a higher vibration. And so house parties it doesn't even matter if Uncle Chucky get drunk and you got to drag his ass and put him straight. It doesn't even interfere with that. It really doesn't. The kids cutting up. It doesn't interfere with that because the vibratory rate and the quality of it be so strong that, especially like Bobby Heaven say, once you get to playing that music and you get to, like all of that infuses into the channel, into the cycle of the energy that is surrounding the household, that even after folks leave, there is a healing vibration that still ebbs and flows in and out of the house that takes care of the host and, those that dwell in that dwelling. Now, the same can go for bad energy. So if you throw parties that's full of nonsense, bunch of drama, yes, same goes. That energy stays and lingers too. But we're talking on a inner healing level, and the magic that can be brought forth to the homestead of the hosting of such affair. Yes? And so I'm going to end it here and say that I hope that this outline of bibliography to wrap up our first Coach Mad Hatter's ComfySofa series, conversation series, has been well worth your attendance. I am grateful for your presence. I am grateful that you have or will be willing to, maybe I have convinced you, to seek self, to get more closer to self, to emotionally and intellectually invest in the courtship with self and your invisible muses, aka your imagination, that you become a self-appointed Imagineer. Because And the revolution still won't be televised. I wish you well.